Knockouts, smoking Bert Cooper. His opponent fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with the blue trim. He weighed in at 253 pounds from Marshall, Texas, with a professional record of 62 wins, 2 defeats, 59 big knockouts. Here is the former heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman! A referee, Al Munoz, with the instructions.
And Sean O'Grady taking a closer look at this fight. Sean and the blackboard.
Well, for Foreman, he's got to speed up against the lighter Cooper. He's got to use his uppercuts because Cooper is shorter than he is. For Cooper, he's got to keep his hands high early, not get caught with those big shots, move side to side, and move his head.
All right, the tips from Sean O'Grady. Bert Cooper in the black trunks in 1973 when Foreman beat Joe Frazier in 2 rounds. Cooper at that time was 7 years old and in the second grade, and he has basically grown up under the tutelage of Joe Frazier. He said Joe really hadn't given any suggestions, but perhaps watch the tapes of Frazier's fight to know what not to do. And what not to do is to stand in front of George Foreman. So Cooper will be on the move, we expect. He's not going to stay in front of George, and he feels that the speed could make the difference. As Foreman, Sean, will look to cut off the ring on Cooper.
Well, this ring is fast. There's not much padding underneath, and it's only 17 foot inside the ropes. That would have to favor somebody like Foreman, a big man who can move side to side.
And can punch, and he's going after Cooper. Here in the first, Cooper backpedaling, certainly showing great respect for the punching power of Foreman.
And Cooper realizes that he's got to get into the last few rounds of this fight. He's got to get past 3, is what he said.
He wants to take Foreman into the later rounds. Foreman in 62 victories and 2 defeats, 64 fights, has gone the distance only 4 times. He hasn't had to. And now Cooper inside and out. Foreman coming back.
We have seen Big George hurt on a couple of occasions in the first few rounds when he fought Ladislav Hernandez and also Jose Hernandez.
Cooper won the NABF Cruiserweight title in June of '86 with a 12-round decision over Olympic gold medalist Henry Tillman. He had a few defenses, then he went up to the heavyweights and went up to Canada and destroyed Canadian Olympian Doug DeWitt in 2 rounds. And Cooper then was a hot item. Matter of fact, that fight was in February of '87, just a month before Foreman came out of retirement. And at that time, Cooper, they were talking about him as a future opponent for Tyson. But then in June of '87, TKO'd in the 8th by Carl Williams, and he said it was the jab of Williams who just cut him around the lip, that Williams was just too tall and too quick. He knows he's going to see the jab from Foreman.
Yeah, he said that jab was just too fast for Carl Williams. He said Foreman's got a good jab too. I brought it up that Foreman's got an excellent jab, but he says Foreman's jab is too slow and ain't going to hit me.
Dave Miller losing the North American Boxing Federation Cruiserweight title in February, and he was rocked by Foreman.
And that was a body blow, a sweeping right hand to the body on Cooper. Devastating blow right on the short rib. Right there.
And now he's standing right in front of Foreman. Under 15 seconds left in the first round.
When you get hit with shots like that, it locks your legs, and you can't move. That's why Bert Cooper is not moving away from Foreman.
As we pause for our local cable systems.
For George Foreman, that sweeping right hand that caught Bert Cooper right on that short rib over on the left side of your body.
George, who could just punch through an opponent. George not too happy about things at the weigh-in this morning early at 7 a.m. He was kept up most of the night. His 18-month-old son has had the virus and was up most of the night, as was George. So he had not gotten much sleep before tonight's fight. Figured he'd get a few hours this afternoon.
That's a man you don't want mad at you. You were asking me today, Al, about that crisscross defense that Bert Cooper is using in there. He's crossing he's crossing his hands out in front of his face. And for straight punchers, that's effective. But a puncher like Foreman, who goes around on the outside with those sweeping right hands, those hurt. Right there, he's bringing his right hand over in front of his face. Oh, that punch hurt.
And Cooper unable to get away from Foreman. Big problem for Cooper here tonight, Sean, as we had alluded to before. We have not seen Foreman as serious in any of his fights as we had here tonight.
He was very worried about this fight. Now Cooper, if you get hit underneath that left arm, you're going to start dropping that left arm to try to protect that rib. When he does, that's when Foreman's going to try to nail him. A couple of good shots by Bert Cooper. Foreman will then come upstairs. Foreman concentrating wisely on the body here in this second round.
And as before the fight, when George was asked if Cooper is the best opponent he's faced in the comeback, George answered, "If I said yes, will it sell tickets?" So George not feeling that Cooper will derail him, and George really bringing out the heavy artillery.
Cooper can't stand in there against those shots. Cooper's got to move his head and then go in on the angles like he said he was going to do. He's trying to get on the angle of Foreman, but he can't make it inside that offensive Foreman. But Cooper realizes he has to just bide his time, let Foreman shoot those big punches and try to get into those later rounds. But he's got to stay away from those big shots of Foreman.
Cooper grew up under the tutelage of Joe Frazier in Philly. And if we take you back to 1973 when Foreman won the championship against Frazier, he had Frazier down 3 times in the first, 3 times in the second, 6 times in all. You could be sure Bert Cooper did not want to follow that same strategy of coming in on Foreman, but he has found here that sometimes there's nowhere to go.
Right, and they fought again in June 15th of '76, Uniondale, New York, when Foreman stopped Frazier in 5.
Foreman said he changed his strategy then. He stayed away. He lasted 3 more rounds. Here in Phoenix Hotel, Bert Cooper has felt his wrath through 2 rounds.
And he is feeling that power. The big right hand by George Foreman. He set that up with the left jab.
Bert Cooper not coming out for the 3rd round. It is over. George Foreman, TKO. Bert Cooper taking the shots in the first 2. Will not come out for the 3rd. What a surprise. The crowd booing Bert Cooper as he has given a no-mas after 2 rounds, taking the heavy body blows of George Foreman. And you could hear the crowd reaction.
Cooper tasted the power of Foreman, and he wanted no part of George Foreman.
Crowd chanting George Foreman, who tonight upped the level a bit, hearing so much about Bert Cooper being his biggest test. And in the end, it certainly was not the case. Let's take a look at some of the shots in the 2nd round. George Foreman.
Boom, that big right hand is what took all the steam out of Bert Cooper.
And the so-called speed of Bert Cooper never an effect in this fight. And George now playing for the crowd. I want Tyson.
Cooper said he was going to try to get into the later rounds. That's where he was going to KO George Foreman. Foreman wanting Tyson.
Now in this fight, can you judge George Foreman off the competition?
Well, you know what? He won. He's been winning. This is his 18th in a row. You have to give the man some credibility.
We'll be back, and we'll hear from a pumped-up George Foreman when we return.
Through it all. When I can tell you this. This man, young man, was an aggressor. All he knows is throwing punches. And I told you before, Mike Tyson can't whip me because that's all he knows is throwing punches. When he meets somebody who couldn't know, you look at that fight, the fella couldn't hit me with anything and discouraged him. I was hurting him. And what shall he do? Get killed or just cry for mercy? And he asked for mercy because what could he do? Just wait to be slaughtered? Normally, I lighten up in the last few minutes when I got a guy hurt, but this guy was a little too dangerous. Even when I got him hurt, I had to stay on him, and that changed everything for him. There's too much pressure round after round. And they say I'm old. They say I'm 40, but there it is, 23-year-old boy sitting down saying, I can't take it anymore. But when I went, if Cooper would have won, he would have won some money. If Mike Tyson beats me, he just wins some more money to buy a car. But when George Foreman wins, every granddad in the country can stand up and be proud of their gray head. They can stand up and be proud to call their children grandson because I'm an old man. And everybody can, when I win the heavyweight champion of the world, I want every 40-year-old and 50-year-old to stand up and have a toast of Geritol for George Foreman. There's nobody that can whip me at this point. Right now, I'm the best fighter. I didn't stop because people have beat me up. I stopped to do something. I'm a full-time preacher, and I'm coming back in to take up where I left off. These fellas just don't remember George Foreman. Their trainers have told them to get out there, put that pressure on him, keep punching. They're going to get him, but he can't get anything going. Archie Moore has tightened up my defense, and here is a full-fledged fighter. You have to run out of the ring or fight, and unfortunately, these fellas don't have enough experience to fight an old man like me.
When I saw you today, you seemed to be worried. You were a little bit different. Were you worried about Bert Cooper?
Worried because I knew I wouldn't be able to play with him. Normally, like I said, you've seen me in before, I get a fella hurt and I back off and let him get himself together and let the referee come to his rescue. This time I knew I can't play with this boy. If I get him hurt, I'm going to have to finish him. I'm going to have to finish him, stay on him, and I didn't want to do that, but unfortunately, he could see it coming so bad that he quit himself. It happened to Huawei. He couldn't take it anymore. It's going to happen to Holyfield. We're supposed to sign and fight Holyfield, Tyrell Big. It's going to happen to all of these fellas. You know why? They've been getting away with murder. They've had 16, 17 fights, but I'm George Foreman. I fought Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Kenny Norton. I fought all the great fighters in the world. I'm not the best, but I fought the best, and that makes me one of the ones. And I even met Joe Louis. I met him, shook hands, you know.
Do you feel like a win over Bert Cooper has a knockout win like he had, has silenced the critics?
No, they're never going to be silenced. As long as George Foreman keeps winning. I started my previous career, and I knocked Joe Frazier out in 2 rounds. People said Joe Frazier was over the hill. Muhammad took too much out of him. They will never stop because things happen so quick, and I get them over so quick. But, as always, I'd like to say hello to everybody in the audience, and special thanks to Sean O'Grady.
Thank you, George. Let's also say hello to Bert Cooper. Bert, he hit you the second round. You tasted the power. Did you decide just to check it in?
Yeah.
Keep your chin up.
All right, that's it. I didn't want to get hit with too many with those shots. You know what I'm saying? I didn't just want to, because he's a big guy.
Do you feel like you ever hurt him? I saw a couple of combinations that you threw.
I did with I think with the right hook to your head, right here to the eye. That sold him out a little bit, but they just keep coming.
Okay, as a heavyweight, what do you think about him fighting Mike Tyson?
He wouldn't stand a chance against Tyson.
Oh, okay.
George wouldn't stand a chance against Tyson.
Why?
But Tyson is too well seasoned. You know what I'm saying? He's young and he's strong.
There's also talk of Evander Holyfield. Could Foreman stand there with Holyfield?
I don't think so. Stamina. Holyfield got stamina. George Foreman don't. He wouldn't be able to make it 10 rounds.
Okay, all right. Bert Cooper lost tonight. But let's go back down to a winner at ringside, Al Albert. Al?
All right, we may want to keep Bert there for a reaction. We've just received word that the commission here in Arizona is holding up Cooper's purse, which we understand is $17,500 for non-performance.